Hey, once again, welcome to Mecum Kissimee 2020. A small part of this immense lineup, 3,500 cars running 11 days, are a lot of very important drag racing cars, not only competition cars, but exhibition cars as well. Keep in mind, the decade of the 1960s, the baby boomers coming of age, the muscle cars becoming more and more prominent, drag racing became a huge part for all the manufacturers to promote their products, and it was a very popular time period. The young folks of that time period were enamored with drag racing, and the manufacturers knew that, so they decided, we're going to go crazy and build some whimsical vehicles. And we've got a couple of them that everybody is going to recognize. The little Red Wagon, the wheel stand, or the Dodge van. This is not a replica. This is the real deal. This was Bill Maverick's little Red Wagon. There were several of these actually built, but this is a real car from the time period, fuel injected, Hemi powered car. And I love the way here it's on display at Mecum with the wheels up in the front air, just like it would have run the entire quarter mile back in the day. Not to be outdone, Chrysler Corporation, Mopar being big supporters of drag racing in that time period, in conjunction with Hearst, also decided to do some exhibition racing, and with the Plymouth Barracuda from the mid-1960s. Once again, mid-engine, fuel-injected, Hemi-powered cars. These cars were so popular, and they're both here 50 years later, sitting side by side with the wheels up in the air, is just captivating the crowds here, bringing back so many great memories of a time period, and just as importantly, exposing this time period to hopefully a new generation of enthusiasts that really understand how cool it was back then. But you know what? It's not necessarily all about the exhibition vehicles. Drag racing, competition drag racing. We've got some of the most important cars from the late 60s, early 1970s as well. Who remembers the early 1970s? The battles between Bob Glidden, Grumpy Bill Jenkins, the 351 Cleveland-powered Pinto Pro Stock car, the V8 Vega-powered Pro Stock cars. These were the dominating cars. These aren't replicas. These were the actual cars raced by drag racing legends. Now, both of these guys gone and passed away, but the legacy is going to live forever. The early days of Pro Stock drag racing, the dawn of it, started with these two cars right here. 427 Camaro from Bill Jenkins, once again, known fondly to his fans and friends, family as Grumpy, but who can't forget the Plymouth Barracuda, Hemi-powered, of course, driven and dominated the drag racing circuit by Ronnie Sox, Mr. 4-Speed himself. This is the exact car. It is also selling at no reserve. It's been restored to as-race condition in 1971. So if you were back in the early days of Pro Stock drag racing, going back to the early 1970s, this pair would be a familiar sight on the starting line at drag strips around the country, and it's not over with yet. You like vintage drag racing cars? Late 50s, early 1960s Corvettes, very popular in the gasser classes. Grand Spalding Dodge sponsored a 1970 Hemi Challenger funny car. This isn't a replica. This is the actual supercharged nitro fuel burning, representing a fairly early part of drag racing funny car history. TV Tommy Ivo, child actor, very successful in the 1950s, gave up his acting career because he had a love of drag racing. And in the early days, he had a love of Buick powered. Now, this particular 4-engine exhibition dragster, 4 Buick nailhead engines, is not the original car. This is actually a replica of a car that he used as an exhibition car back in the 1960s, but it's very faithful to the way that he actually had prepared a car. Buick never really totally got on board with him from a sponsorship standpoint, but his love in the early days of Buick power plants, he had a lot of great cars, but it didn't last because he decided he was going to go full-blown top-fuel drag racing with a state-of-the-art, high-tech, mid-engine, rear-engine drag race car to go head-to-head with all of the big boys. And then, of course, the Buick engine no longer competitive. Early 1970s, it was all about supercharged Chrysler Hemi power, and TV Tommy Ivo always had cars that were prepared to a very high cosmetic standard. He was competitive, he was fast, but more known for his quality and attention to detail and colors and chrome plating and so many other cosmetic things that really sort of set him apart. He became a fan favorite, despite the fact that he was never an NHRA champion. He was still a fan favorite because he's so good with the fans and his cars look so good. This particular car, this exact car here, was his original car. It has been rebuilt because it needed to be rebuilt. This car exploded, caught on fire, flipped upside down at about 200 miles an hour, crossed the start-finish line, and TV Tommy Ivo actually won that race. Now, another famous drag racer, Bruce Larson, a funny car champion, NHRA of his own right, actually owned this car and restored it to the standard that you see right now. This also selling at no reserve. So, bottom line on all of this, such a fantastic collection of top-shelf, A-list, historically important drag race cars are here at this auction, and we're expecting pretty strong bidding as people literally have come from around the world to embrace what is going on with Mecum Kissimmee. And these drag race cars, just a little part of it, but a very, very big part of this auction.